Black Star Network is here.
Hold no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
Today is Wednesday, April 29th, 2026, coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered, streaming live on the Black Star Network. I have been telling y'all for years about the assault on Black America, the efforts to defund Black America, where the Supreme Court, the right-wing Supreme Court, has severely weakened one of the most important laws in American history, the Voting Rights Act of 1965. We'll talk about this Louisiana versus Cali decision, its impact on how Republicans are already looking at wiping out Black representation all across the South. But it goes much deeper than congressional seats, and I'll explain. We'll be joined by Virginia Congressman Bobby Scott, co-chair of the Congressional Voting Rights Caucus, Quentin James, president of the Collective PAC, Damon Hewitt, president and executive director of the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. Folks, in Florida, the state house there has passed Governor Ron DeSantis' proposed congressional map, which could enable Republicans to flip up to 4 seats. Representative Angie Dixon, who's running for U.S. Senate, she was not happy, and she took to the floor with a bullhorn. The Virginia Supreme Court has chosen not to overturn a lower court ruling that blocked the implementation of last week's redistricting election results. They still are deciding that as well. In South Carolina, Lieutenant Governor there is criticizing students at South Carolina State for protesting her speaking at this year's graduation. She even puts out a video slamming the anti-woke group. We'll talk to a former board member, an alum, about the resistance to her being there. In North Carolina, the interim president of St. Augustine's University has resigned as the school files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy and ceases its fight for accreditation. We'll talk to some alumni there as well. Folks, it's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Folks, we've been predicting this day was going to happen. We have talked about the consistent attack on African Americans and voting rights and black political power. Well, the right-wing Supreme Court today, in a 6-3 decision, determined the Louisiana versus Cali case that actually is going to have a major impact on congressional seats, state rep seats, state senate seats, county commissioner seats, city council seats, where race was used in the creation. Now, this is an extremely strange ruling by this majority. They held that Section 2 of the Act, which prohibits states from using maps that dilute minority groups' voting power, requires plaintiffs to be able to, quote, disentangle race from lawmakers' race-neutral considerations so that a strong inference may be drawn that race was a factor. What the hell are they talking about? The 6-3 decision will make it far harder for plaintiffs to challenge future maps for racial discrimination, undermining a key understanding of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Now, folks, to further break all of this down, and again, trying to get people to understand what we're dealing with, they were deciding a case regarding the 2nd Black District in Louisiana. Here's the problem. The same Supreme Court allowed the creation of that very district. So the Republicans in Louisiana then tried to sue by saying, oh, race should not be used as a factor in that. All right, let's figure out what the hell they were talking about, because they is frankly being quite clueless. Damon Hewitt is the president and executive director of the Laws Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. He joins me right now. So, Frat, let's walk. This ruling, written by Samuel Alito, is all over the place. Elena Kagan, who was one of the three, she says that for all intent and purposes, what they've done is turn the Voting Rights Act into a name-only law.
Well, exactly. It's like you have rights on paper, but no remedy in fact. The court has made it incredibly difficult. It's actually usurped Congress's authority. You know, back in 1982, Lionel Gwynne and others helped to get the amendments in 1982 to make clear that there was an effect standard, that it wasn't just intentional discrimination, based on the Bass Supreme Court decision out of Mobile, Alabama. Now, Justice Alito and the majority of the court has essentially overwritten that by basically changing Section 2, saying, we don't like that, we're going back to the glory days of the way it was. And that means that we have to prove intentional racial discrimination to get any kind of remedy. So this thing is bad all the way around. But look, let's just be clear for broader context, Roland. Black people we've never had fair representation in this country. As long as there have been elections in this country, there's been racial discrimination in voting. That's why we needed a Voting Rights Act. That's why we needed a 15th Amendment. to ensure that our rights to vote weren't abridged based on race, color, prior condition of servitude, as in slavery. And so what this makes it much less likely that we ever get fair representation. Now, we're not giving up, and we'll talk about that, I'm sure, later. We're not giving up, but this is a tough one. This is a bitter pill to swallow, and it is devilishly ingenious in its scope because it touches Section 2 and also touches racial gerrymandering. One last point, Roland. Juxtaposed against today's decision is yesterday's summary order that most people missed because it wasn't a full written opinion. You know about the Texas mid-decade redistricting. We and others litigated that at the Lawyers Committee and other organizations as well. We won the trial before a 3-judge panel. A Trump-appointed judge wrote the majority opinion. He said, this may look like political gerrymandering only, but this is racial gerrymandering. Here's why. He goes on for 60-some-odd pages explaining why. Several weeks ago, this Supreme Court issued a stay, meaning it paused that preliminary injunction. Yesterday, in a very short summary order, the court said, for the reasons we said before, y'all lose. So here's the juxtaposition.
Like damn what he wrote.
Exactly. Here's the juxtaposition. Intentionally targeting Black and Latino districts in Texas and Black and Latino voters for elimination is not racial gerrymandering to this court. Yet, as you said a few minutes ago, having a remedy to a violation of Black people's rights under Section 2 is racial discrimination, is racial gerrymandering. That is intellectually dishonest. That is hypocritical at best. That's what we are.
Well, and also what it essentially allows for them to do is to say, oh, we could just disperse Black and Latino voters all over the place. And so even though they make up almost 40% of Mississippi, Mississippi has the likelihood of them creating a 4-0 all-Republican district and say, well, we don't care how y'all may vote. And the crazy thing is, which we all know, that partisan gerrymandering in the South has been racial.
Yes.
This idea that, oh no, these white conservative lawmakers, they're not drawing lines and factoring in race. They are. That was the Hart, Louisiana case.
Exactly.
They literally showed that even when Democrats are drawing it, it's about race.
It always is. It's like racial gerrymandering is the evil twin of partisan gerrymandering or vice versa. They basically are what and what. We've actually had to sue Democrats before at the Lawyers Committee because we're a nonpartisan organization and anybody can get it when it comes to our rights. We sued Democrats for racial gerrymandering in Illinois when they cracked the Black community.
Right.
So, you know, this is the name of the game. It is always about race. It's always about power.
Congressman Bobby Scott, Justice Elena Kagan said, and I've been saying this as well, that this decision could be the largest wipeout of Black political power since the end of Reconstruction. That's how devastating this decision is.
Well, she's probably right. We don't know the exact impact of it, but all you can say good about it is it could have been worse. They could have taken the entire Voting Rights Act down. They didn't. But what Lawyer Hewitt was just saying is by requiring an intent, you've made it virtually impossible to prove a case. People are sophisticated. They know what words to use and what words not to use. And as he has indicated, since African Americans are voting overwhelmingly Democratic and Republicans are voting overwhelmingly Republican, you can have a map that discriminates against African Americans. But if you call it partisan, that your target was Democrats, the same map, according to these people, becomes legal. So that doesn't make any sense. If the map is illegal, that's why the effects test was so much better, because if you can show it has the effect of discriminating against African Americans, that ought to be enough. Now you got to show that not only does it have the effect of discriminating, it had the intent. Not the intent of discriminating against Democrats, but the discrimination against African Americans. And what they do is they just get the script and read it into legislative hearings, and just declare themselves to be discriminating against Democrats. And the discriminatory map against African Americans, all of a sudden, according to the Supreme Court today, because partisan gerrymandering is okay, that illegal map now becomes legal. It's going to be virtually impossible to create a case against sophisticated wordsmiths who avoid using the wrong words during the legislative hearings. You're just stuck. It is a devastating case. And the devastating impact of these guys, we're in the middle of mid-decade redistricting, has been pointed out. They've done Texas, they've redone Missouri, they've gone after another seat in North Carolina. Republicans have redrawn, eliminated 7 districts. It's interesting to note that of the 7, 4 of the 5 in Texas are represented by blacks or Hispanics. Missouri is Emanuel Cleaver's district, a member of the Black Caucus, just like Don Davis in North Carolina, a member of the Black Caucus. There is a pattern to what they're doing. So their intent is clear, but to hide it under partisan rather than racial as it is just making it more difficult to prove the case. And so they really sabotaged the Voting Rights Act by doing what they did today.
So Samuel Alito, he writes a 36-page opinion, and he says that the Constitution almost never permits the federal government or state to discriminate on the basis of race. I don't know what world he's living in, but that's literally what the Republican lawmakers are doing in these southern states. And to your point, very few are as dumb as we expect. They're not as dumb as the idiot Republicans were in North Carolina, where they actually put it in emails asking, hey, when do black people vote early? And that's what they said. That was a laser-like targeting of black voters. They
targeted black voters with surgical precision.
Right. And so they were so dumb they actually put it down on paper. And what they're now saying is that, oh, no, if they just simply say, no, we did not look at race at all. It was race neutral. And no, so if we're gonna grab 10% of blacks here and throw them over here, and we're gonna grab another percent and throw them over here, what they're saying is, oh, no, so, hey, I know your state might have 30, 35% blacks, but, hey, those black people, they don't actually need representation. They should be able to elect a white Republican.
What they do, though, is they look at the Democratic vote, which if you do an overlay, it's the same as the black vote. And when you discriminate against the Democrats, you are necessarily, in voting patterns all over the South, discriminating against blacks. And they want to get away with it by calling it partisan rather than racial. And I can tell you, they're telling themselves, because these people are not against partisan redistricting. There's legislation pending in the House now to prohibit partisan redistricting, so you have fair maps, not a Republican co-sponsor. We passed legislation a couple of years ago to prohibit. It included a prohibition against partisan gerrymandering, and all of them voted against that. If we're going to have fair maps, you cannot allow partisan gerrymandering. And when the Supreme Court essentially allowed that, they gave the green light to all kinds of mischief, including racial discrimination, because you can have a racially discriminatory map, but if you declare, oh, I wasn't discriminating on race, I was discriminating on party, all of a sudden the map becomes legal. That doesn't make any sense. They're discriminating.
Damon, this is from SCOTUS blog. This was interesting. And guys, pull it up when you see it. They said, in this case, Alito said Louisiana's goal in adopting the 2024 map was racial. The state enacted it in the wake of the lower court's finding that the 2022 map likely violated Section 2 and sought to avoid having the court impose a different map that would have created a second majority black district, but which would also have, quote, have imperiled one of the influential incumbents in the legislature sought to protect. The state did not have the kind of compelling interest that would have justified considering race in drawing the 2024 map, Alito wrote, because, quote, the state did not need to create a new majority-minority district to comply with the act. Yeah. That is because at every step of the Gingell's framework, the black voters challenging the 22 map failed to prove their case. Okay, but correct me if I'm wrong. The Supreme Court allowed the creation of this. They didn't overrule the lower court's ruling. They affirmed it.
My home state of Louisiana violated the Voting Rights Act. In fact, before the Shelby County decision in 2013, every Louisiana redistricting plan, House at least redistricting plan, that was submitted for preclearance was found to be violative, or at least opposed by DOJ or a federal court. Every decennial census, every decade. So Louisiana has not changed its stripes. And you're right. That's the starting point, is that Louisiana discriminated against black voters, period. What Alito is saying, and I guess the rest of the convoluted passage from Justice Alito goes on to essentially say that, well, they didn't prove intentional racial discrimination. And unless you can prove intentional discrimination, then you cannot have this kind of remedy. But there's another piece of what he said that's really the gut punch to us, to Congressman Scott, to all of us, which is there's no requirement that just because a state could create a second or an additional majority black district that it must. But that's been the hallmark. It's essentially taxation without fair representation. It's having so many black people in your state, in states like Louisiana, Texas, which still has more black people, I think, your home state, almost anywhere else.
Yeah, more eligible black voters in Texas than any state in the country.
Exactly, right? So it's saying that states like that, what this is, Roland, is this is the evil genius answer to demographic shift.
Yes.
You know that additional 3 million people / voters in Texas over a decade period, which is why Texas was crying that it should have gotten another seat in Congress, right? So their answer is, well, if we're not going to get an additional seat, we're just going to take more for certain people, right? So the demographic shift, though, was mostly Latino and black voters.
Hold on. Congressman Scott has to go. But Congressman, I want to get you the last comment. You still there? Congressman, this is what Damon just said, and I have been saying this here. What all of this is, 2008 was the first time in American history that a larger percentage of black voters voted for the presidential election than white voters. And I said then, black people, the war is about to begin. Everything since then has been a massive attack on black voting rights and black political power. And John Roberts, the Chief Justice, has been the biggest driver because he is always, along with Clarence Thomas, wanted to completely get rid of the Voting Rights Act.
Well, starting with the Shelby v. Holder case that that ended the preclearance. The preclearance was important because if you couldn't pass a discriminatory plan and have it go into effect, it would never go into effect unless it got precleared as not being discriminatory. Now you can pass a discriminatory plan, and until the victims of the plan come up with lawyers and court cases and get it overturned, you get to enjoy the benefits of your shenanigans. That really started it, and here we are in the third go round of the decade, and we're still arguing about what the lines are. This should have been gotten straight in 2022, the first go round in the decade, and you could not install a plan unless it had been pre-cleared by the Justice Department. Yep. And so that started it. And since then, they've been chipping away at it. And the idea that you can have a plan that clearly shows a discriminatory effect, but you can't win your case unless you can get them on the record saying something that proves intent. You already proved effect, but have to prove intent. Just makes the whole thing much more difficult. And so we've been going backwards. We're going to fight. We're going to try to pass. If we vote this time and get a majority, hopefully we'll be able to pass a legislation to end partisan gerrymandering. Most of the lawyers I've talked to said that could be upheld, and that gets rid of all the shenanigans. And then we just have to make sure we vote every time the votes are opened. And we had an opportunity in Virginia. We passed a referendum that will create 4 additional seats. If we had those 4 additional seats now, they never could have passed that big ugly bill that took away your health care and SNAP benefits to give tax cuts to the wealthy. We could have passed the War Powers Act to end this war. We could oversee ICE. There are all kinds of things that we could combat the abolishing the Department of Education. There's a lot we could do if we had those 4 votes now. So we're trying to make progress with what we've got, but we haven't ended, and we're going to continue to fight. But this is certainly a serious blow, which will make that fight much more difficult.
Congressman Bobby Scott of Virginia, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot. I want to bring in Quentin James with the Collective PAC. Quentin, you're all about raising money for Black candidates, people who run for Congress, people who run for state office, and when you talk about the South, when you now start talking about Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, North Carolina, South Carolina, Arkansas, we can go on and on and on. We know what's about to happen. These Republican lawmakers are about to go in and say, oh, let's wipe out. So this is, and I'm telling you, Kagan is right. This is going to be the largest wipeout of Black political power on the congressional level since Reconstruction. But this thing is going to go all the way down from Congress to state to county commissioners, Supreme Courts, to water district, you name it, because the Voting Rights Act is what provided political power to Black people. And Latinos, y'all better wake the hell up, because this is going to include you too.
Exactly. I mean, this is what George Wallace and Bull Connor couldn't do, right? They've taken a knife and put it directly into Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. And as you mentioned, this is about real power, about real seats. We're talking about up to 19 U.S. House seats from this court case alone. There are other cases pending that we're also going to be paying attention to. So another 27 possibly with gerrymandering. We're looking at 13 to 16 of the CBC members possibly becoming vulnerable due to this ruling. That's 30% of the Black Caucus. You mentioned Hispanics, talking about 11% of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. This is a big blow to our efforts to build Black political power, as you mentioned, Roland. I think we saw ushered in through Obama the largest increase in Black representation that we've seen in a few hundred years. Over the past, 14, 16 years. And so this is huge. You mentioned down ballot, right? About 191 state legislative seats are now possibly vulnerable across these 10 states, as you mentioned, Roland. So this is big, but I think this is an attempt, right? We still have the power to try and prevent this at the ballot box. And I want people to make sure they understand that, is that we have the power to make sure this doesn't happen, right? 18 million registered Black voters in the country right now. If we all show up, not half of us, not 65% of us, if we all show up, we can stop this. But then I want to be critical, Roland, to my party, to Democrats. If we do get power, you have to know what to do with it. I think what we're seeing now from Donald Trump and the Republicans is them using power for their purposes. If we get power back, we have to make sure we defend the right to vote and we defend Black people and our ability to be a part of this democracy. It's going to be
Quentin, I'm going to Cliff Albright, Black Voters Matter in 1 second. Panelists, I know you're there as well. Damon, I want to go to you. Go to my iPad. Already, I told you it didn't take long. This is from AL.com. Alabama Republicans push for a new congressional map after a seismic Supreme Court ruling. It's time to act. So what they want to do is they want to wipe out, these Republicans, they want a 10-0 map in Alabama. They want to wipe out the congressional seat of Terry Sewell in the Black Belt of Alabama. Alabama just got its second Black member of Congress in Shamari Figures. And that was because of legal battle, which the Supreme Court weighed in. They want to wipe that out. But what this is all about, they do not they don't want black representation because that means Democratic representation. And so their whole deal is we about to wipe all of this out. And so they want white people, white Republicans in Alabama for the entire state, a state with a sizable black population.
This is like make Congress, make the legislature great again, quote unquote. I mean, look, the question is only how quickly will it happen, right? Florida's already moved forward with legislation today. You're talking about Alabama.
Mark Elias, his folks have already filed a lawsuit against what they did in Florida.
That's right. So, Alabama's primary is coming up very soon. I mean, there's a primary almost every Tuesday between now and mid-August.
Georgia's in May. So part of the problem, which the Supreme Court supposedly locked stuff in, that you could try to change these maps, but listen, you're now altering who's going to be running in these primaries. So the question is, do the maps stay in place, or do they pass the maps and they go into effect in 28 and not 26?
Most of them will likely be 28. It's a question of speed. I think for this midterm, just to be clear with all your audience, what happens in this midterm is going to be a question of the audacity and the capacity of the evildoers. Can they actually call the legislatures back into session and move quickly? Florida already did. Alabama may be doing the same.
And does the court allow them?
Will the secretaries of state do it? Well, here's the thing. There's no allowance, really, because there's no Section 5 for preclearance. We could file a new Section 2 claim, but we have to prove intent, or a constitutional gerrymandering claim, which also requires intent. Can we get a preliminary injunction or injunction from the court to stop these things? And I want your people to understand the ground game that we have and that we need for civil rights, for voting rights. The Lawyers Committee, Legal Defense Fund, Mark Elias on the partisan side, ACLU, Brennan Center, we all litigate so many of these cases. There are not enough civil rights lawyers in our organizations, maybe in this country, to stop the onslaught at every level.
But here's the other thing. And again, Cliff, hold tight 1 second. I don't remember the case, but that case that came out of Arkansas, where they're suing, saying that groups like yours cannot file lawsuits. Only the Department of Justice. The court above them affirmed that decision. This may go to the Supreme Court. So they're trying to suggest that Lawyers Committee cannot file any voting rights lawsuit, that only the Department of Justice can.
That's what they call a private right of action. And you were talking off air about the case we litigated and won in Mississippi. The state was ordered to draw 3 new legislative districts. Black folks won. That broke the Republican supermajority. Belatedly, the state of Mississippi petitioned the Supreme Court to say, well, they didn't have a private right of action anyway. So you have Calais, which is rights on paper, no remedy in fact. If Turtle Mountain, that's the 8th Circuit, the Arkansas case, that's a different Arkansas case, but there's another 8th Circuit case. If that case, Turtle Mountain, plus our Mississippi case goes south, you have rights on paper, no remedy in fact, and no access to the courts. So they're trying to block access to justice every way they know how. Folks, this is bad. This is worse than bad. This is the worst that I've ever seen in my career. It really is, Roland.
But here's the deal. Cliff, I'm bringing you in here. They told us they were doing this. They told us. They were clear. And I know Congressman Bobby Scott said this all started with Shelby v. Holder. No. This started on the night of November in 2008. My book, White Fear, I told people the election of a black president, North Carolina, he wins by 14,100 votes. The white Republicans in North Carolina, they saw black folks turning out in a way that they've never had. They said, oh, hell no, we stopping this shit. And they changed the law. And what happened was a lot of our people who showed up in 2008 did not show up in 2010. And when 16 legislatures flipped, they said, game on. Laws begin to be changed. Then Shelby v. Holder came down. Then when the decision came down, they immediately began to attack. And what we've seen, Clifford, you know the data, we've seen a decrease in black turnout in every election since 2008. And we now have seen, and we showed it last week, I'm going to pull up, we now have seen the largest gap between white and black turnout. And so when we sit out, when we check out, when we listen to these fools who say no tangibles, no votes, not realizing you're guaranteed to get nothing if you lose black representation.
That's right. I mean, we got to show up, and there's been a lot of inflection points. I mean, we can certainly talk, Shelby. We could talk 2008. We could talk 2000 in the year of Florida. Hell, we could talk 1619. There's a bunch of inflection points that have brought us to this moment. But you're absolutely right. We've got to turn out, and even in this upcoming election, we've got to turn out because there are battles to be won in these midterm elections, even with them redistricting, even as they move forward with, trying to do all these new maps. We've still got chances to flex and use our voting power this midterm cycle. I think the question that Quentin raised is critical. If we get power back, right, or if the people that we vote for get power back, what are they going to do with it? If there's no discussion about Supreme Court reform, then they're wasting their time. If there's no discussion about new voting rights legislation, then they're wasting their time. If there's no discussion, and this is kind of controversial, but at the same time that we're talking about restoring or strengthening the Voting Rights Act, we also need to be taking a hard look at some of the new tools. I've said this before, not so much new tools, but tools that we haven't fully explored, tools that Lonnie Guinier talked about, proportional representation and things like that can more structurally get us the representation we need to have without necessarily being as vulnerable to some of these legal arguments around the 14th Amendment, 15th Amendment, using or considering race. And so all of that needs to be on the table this election cycle. All of these issues, our representation, and more importantly, any progress that we try to get through representation, all of that is on the ballot. But before we get there, the thing that I'm really encouraging folks to do, Roland, is to recognize that the battle right now is not on the steps of the Supreme Court. It's in these states. It's in those states that you were just talking about, like Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi. We know about Florida, Tennessee. We know that Crazy Mashburn is talking about, getting rid of whatever black districts are left there. And so in all of these states, the battle right now is in these state capitals, at these state legislatures. There are groups that are fighting the good fight, like our friends, the Power Coalition in Louisiana, right? One of the plaintiffs in the Calais case. There are groups in all these states that are fighting these battles. They need amplification. They need support. They need financial support. They need volunteers. And so if you're upset right now and you're looking for something to do, yes, we can be talking about the voter mobilization that is absolutely critical, but we also need to be talking about helping these Sister Angie Dixon was on the floor in the Florida Capitol just today with a bullhorn, calling out this nonsense that they're doing in that legislature with the maps that they just passed today. There are organizers and organizations and legislators in these states that need our support right now.
I'm going to bring my panel here. So to do a reset, folks, we've got Quentin James, Collective PAC, co-founder of Collective PAC, Damon Hewitt, who leads the Laws Committee for Civil Rights Under Law. We've got Cliff Albright, co-founder of Black Voters Matter. We previously had Congressman Bobby Scott. He had to go. We got Michael Brown, former chair of DNC Finance Committee out of D.C., Joy Chaney, founder of Joy Strategies out of D.C., Michael Imhotep, host African History Network show out of Detroit. Michael, this was put up by Good Authority last week. Go to my iPad. Racial gaps in turnout are increasing. If you look at this here, you see right here, the graphic here, white turnout, how it is above 70%. Black turnout dipped in 2024 below 60%. You see AAPI in the mid-50s, Latino turnout at around 50%. If you look at that line, you see right there, 2008, 2012, black turnout was at its highest ever, and you see it exceeded the white turnout. But ever since then, you see that white number, that black line going up, and that blue line going down. Michael, what I have been saying, I have been yelling to black people, is that you cannot expect to change politics if your power is sitting at home. I have been saying that black political turnout has to be at a minimum of 70% turnout to counter white turnout. And what's the problem is, whether it's Louisiana or so many other places, if we're turning out at 52, 55, 57, ain't good enough. Our turnout has to be minimum 70. It has to be 75, 78, 80, 82, 85, 90. And if we vote in those numbers, We actually win races. We win statewide races. You got two folks who are running on the Democratic side for the Supreme Court in Georgia. That's winnable. They just won 2 seats in the Public Service Commission. You got the primary coming up, and you got folks who are running for state attorney general and other races. But we are not going to be able to counter any of this when too many of our people are checking out of the process, picking the couch, but then complaining about what we don't have. Well, if your ass don't show up, you're guaranteed not to get a damn thing.
You have been talking about it for a long time. You've been screaming and yelling about it for a long time. And politics is not a spectator sport. You have to be involved, and it's all the time. It's not just around elections. It doesn't mean you have to focus your whole life around politics, but just as one of your other guests was speaking earlier, it's also after the election. What do you do to hold folks accountable and keep that pressure up? For example, we had the Clinton, after Clinton won in 92, had the House and the Senate, did nothing about codifying any of these particular laws. Obviously, same in 2008, when Obama won, had the House and the Senate. So we've had these opportunities to do what now Republicans are doing, which is we're not going to play around. When we get power, we're going to use it. It's time for my party, our party, to stop doing the kind of kumbaya, let's all get along, let's be nice, let's try to figure everything out and work together. We're not at that stage anymore. We haven't been for quite some time. Because these folks are playing forget just blood, they're playing to wipe anybody of color out.
Yeah.
And frankly, and women too. I mean, I wish that whether it's Latino voters, black voters, women voters, had a stronger alliance, because they're coming after anybody that's not a white male. And so this is serious. And frankly, when Justice Alito writes an opinion like that, all he does is walks down the hall and asks Clarence, "You okay with this?" But Alito knows the answer. He knows Judge Thomas is going to say, "Yeah, I'm fine with that." And so that's also part of the problem, is the Supreme Court. That's where elections do have consequences, making sure you have the judges in there to make the right decisions.
We tried, Joy, to Michael's point there, it was a whole bunch of Democrats who said, oh no, Roe v. Wade, I mean, that's settled law. There's no such thing as settled law when a Supreme Court can overrule a previous decision. And so to that point there, if you don't use your power and lock it in, then you leave it up to a new court to decide whatever they want to decide. And that, to me, right here is where we're faced right now. And again, on this show, on my TV One show, we have been trying to tell people this over and over and over again. And people are now beginning to realize, oh, this is truly FAFO territory we're in now, because they don't understand when you start wiping out political power, you're wiping out access to billions of dollars. You're wiping out who controls legislation, who sits on committees. And that's what I'm saying. Folk don't understand how significant these decisions are, because the cascading impact is real.
That's right. I mean, for folks who don't understand their history, they are literally about to live it. What the Supreme Court did today was to further entrench a return to Jim Crow. And they're happy to do it. And they do it in the insidious way of saying it's race neutral when they know it's not. They know it's not. Just look at what they've decided in the past. They're deciding to do it now because they see an opening. And there are white people who are saying this is what we want and it's okay. This is not about politics and just, it's just the majority deciding. No, this is about racism. And as Michael said, and as you've said, Roland, in the case of gender, it's about sexism. It's about anything that is not white and male. And so I think for those of us who may not have really understood, I know everyone on here did, we are in the middle of a war. And it's not, it's a cold war in some respects. And so for some people, that doesn't feel present. And so they're not acting as if they're in a war. But we are absolutely there. We saw it spike in some places on immigration where it felt physical. But for a vast majority of us, it's a war around access to benefits, access to resources, access to the ballot, fair representation, all of those things. And we are not acting like it. We have Democrats excuse me, who are far too passive and comfortable with where we are, and they aren't understanding that we have to vote. I had a unfortunate conversation with a seemingly intelligent young woman a couple weeks ago who said she wasn't going to vote for Democrats and wanted us to fail as to prove a point. And I'm like, fool. And I said it. I was upset. You are too privileged to sit here and make that kind of statement.
Right.
What you are doing is sitting in Washington, D.C., trading away the rights of other people, but soon, too, will be your rights.
Right.
This is not the time to worry about you don't like Democrats, you don't like that. You have got to vote. And as Damon said, many of these things that is a race, it's a race against time. They may not be able to do it all in this election, which means it is very important that we are voting in November. This may be it. It may be the last opportunity to make a significant difference.
Michael, there are a lot of people who should be ashamed of themselves today. And those are the people who told us that Supreme Court was not on the ballot in 2016. There were some black people like Breonna Gray who said, oh no, this isn't an issue. Well, guess what? We told them they were wrong. We said they were silly for saying it. And what we now see, Donald Trump got 3 appointments to the Supreme Court. And the reality is, if Alito and or Thomas chooses to retire in the fall, they're going to approve 2 young Supreme Court justices to lock in that 6-3 majority for a very long time. We keep trying to tell people, the president may only be there for 4 years, maximum 8 years, but Supreme Court justices will be there for life.
Absolutely, Roland. You have black elitists like Dr. Eddie Glaude, who was on MSNBC, and he was also on your show, News One Now, in 2016, telling black people, telling people in general, vote for everything except president. Leave president blank. Okay? And this, once again, this is a consequence of the 2016 presidential elections. I said it on the show before, not just 3 Supreme Court justices, but also about 234 federal judges that Donald Trump got put in place as well, which are lifetime appointments also. And I've talked about the Mississippi State Convention of 1890 here before, and I said, these Republicans, these conservatives, and Project 2025 are trying to take black people back to the Mississippi State Convention of 1890, where they rewrote the state constitution, imposed poll taxes, literacy tests, but also a felony disenfranchisement law, so that if you were convicted of a felony, you lost your right to vote for life. That law from 1890 is still in place in Mississippi today, okay? And they said, we came here to exclude the Negro. This is explicitly what they said. This is what's taking place right here today. And you mentioned Shelby County versus Holder, 2013 U.S. Supreme Court case. Well, right after that Supreme Court decision, you had states, many of them former Confederate states, started passing voter ID laws.
Yep.
Okay. And in the 2016 presidential election, as a consequence of 2013, there were 1,600 fewer polling places.
Right.
Many of them that were shut down were in Black and Latino districts.
Right.
So
and so right.
2025. This is what we try to warn people against.
So all of that, when you pull it together, Quentin, shows a direct attack on black voters. And so what are you hearing from the people who y'all have supported, people you want to support? Because look, this is going to impact literally who is representing us on the federal level, on the state level, and the local level.
Well, listen, I think a lot of people are ready to fight. We saw Angie Dixon running for U.S. Senate in Florida, but currently in the Florida legislature, getting a bullhorn, going and protesting. That's what we need. We need fighters, but also we need people to be bold, right? I think what we're also seeing is when some of these districts do get kind of shaken, like we saw in Texas, we need Colin Allred to go up against another white Democrat. We need black folks to run everywhere, not just in urban centers, not just in, black rural counties. We need you to run everywhere. So we got black candidates running in Oregon, running in Washington State, running all over the country because we know that we can represent as good, if not better than anybody else everywhere else as well. But to Cliff's point earlier, we need folks to give money to support these folks down ballot. So find your state representative, find your local folks running maybe for county commission, whatever it might be. These folks are going to need your financial support over the next few months because they know people are coming against them. As it was mentioned, we are at war right now. And so we need folks to dig deep. We know the economy is really tough, but we got to keep our folks in power over the next few months and into this 2026 election so that we can legislate our way out of these kind of problems around gerrymandering.
Damon, what's next for civil rights groups? This is a blow. This is not. I'll see people like, oh well, it's not too bad. No, this is seismic.
This is seismic. What's next? Number one is we're all huddling internally and across to figure out immediate strategies to stem the tide right now for these midterms because the state of play is not clear. There's not a lot of time for these folks, but those who can find a time will take it and leverage it. Then we have to have a game plan for every state and every district we can get to, not just House, U.S. House. Like you said, it's all across the states, working with community partners, people on the ground, about how we can stop even worse things from happening in the state legislatures for next year and also for 2028. But then we also have to do what Cliff said, Roland. We have to get new strategies, whether that be alternative voting methods, whether that be new statutory frameworks. We're clear. We can't fix what happened today by a federal statute. But the least Congress could do is actually give us a more robust version of the John Lewis Voting Rights Act than we've ever had, right? So that's the least that we can do. So we're going to be in those fights overall. But look, here's the truth. Things are going to get worse before they get better. We have to be prepared for that. We have to understand that we're suffering some losses, but we have to keep our strategic mind about us. As I'm telling my team now, it is our duty to fight. It's our duty to win. And if you believe all of that and all the rest of it in between, then we can't give up now. We have to fight, if not harder, at least smarter.
Cliff, in her dissenting opinion, Justice Elena Kagan said, she described this creation of a district, a circle, and she said, in this not so hypothetical, she said the state legislature decides to eliminate the circle district, slicing it into 6 pie pieces, and allocating 1 each to 6 new, still solidly white congressional districts. The state's black voters are now widely dispersed and, unlike the state's white voters, lack any ability to elect a representative of their choice. Election after election, black citizens' votes are, by every practical measure, wasted. That is racial vote dilution in its most classic form. A minority community that is cohesive in its geography and politics alike and that faces continued adversity from racial division is split. Cracked is the usual term, so that it loses all its electoral influence. Members of the racial minority can still go to the polls and cast a ballot, but given the state's racially polarized voting, they cannot hope in the way the state's white citizens can to elect a person whom they think will represent their interest. Quentin talked about, again, how we still have to vote. And Damon said the same thing. I've been saying the same thing. If there is a moment that this generation has to, pardon my French, wake the fuck up and realize we can have all of these, the conversation Joy was talking about. We can have all of these esoteric, silly-ass conversations. But what we had better understand is that there is a side that wants to wipe out, and I call it defund Black America. They are targeting everything political, economic, legal, health. They're targeting the entire black infrastructure. They believe that the 3 Reconstruction Amendments, the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments, they believe the 64 Civil Rights Act and the 65 Voting Rights Act and the 68 Fair Housing Act, they believe the downfall of America is a result of civil rights laws and these laws, not discrimination. And the only thing that we have to stop them is the power of the ballot box, And so what are your marching orders for people between now, as a result of this decision, and what must happen now?
Yeah, I mean, again, the first marching order is to protect these states where all this redistricting is to be taking place. But, to your point, the other marching order is for us to, as you said, to wake up, to make the connections. What's interesting is that you got a lot of folks that will agree with you about, oh yeah, they don't like us, they have to get us, these are bad policies, but I haven't felt it yet, right? That's something that we've actually seen in some of the surveys and focus groups. Like, oh, I haven't felt it. And there are people that still, for whatever reason, are not connecting the dots to whatever it is that you are feeling is directly connected to this issue. Like if you're upset because gas prices are high or housing affordability, guess what? That's a function of not having representation or of being represented by people who are anti-Black, who are anti your life. Those things are directly connected. Whatever thing it is that people are feeling right now, feeling the effects of this war that this country is in, or like I said, the prices, or the high unemployment for Black women and for Black men, or maternal mortality. The crazy man Kennedy was testifying in front of Representative Summer Lee talking about maternal mortality, and he didn't even want to acknowledge that Black women die in birth at higher rates than other women in this country. That is what happens when you don't have representation. They can literally control your health, your well-being, your lives, your economics. So all of these issues that we're feeling, all of the frustrations that we're having, all the stresses that we're having in our lives, one way or another, it comes back to, do you have people who are representing you, who have control of resources, who literally have control of significant parts of your life? That's what's at stake when we're talking about voting rights or redistricting. It's not theoretical. It is the thing that very much connects to every issue that you care about, everything that affects your quality of life. At the end of the day, it comes back to who is making decisions over your life. Once you can connect those dots, then you know that your mandate, your job, your Black job is to get out there, to not just get out and register and vote yourself, but to then go get 10 other people, go get 20 other people, to spread the word, to become an organizer, because that is our belief, that everybody we touch is an organizer. And if we all do our job of going out, doing our part, and then touching 10 other people, whether we're touching with our voice or with our artwork or with our kitchen or with our faith or whatever it is, if we do our part, then they can't stop us. But if we refuse, if we give up, if we don't believe in ourselves or don't believe that this voting process matters, then they've already won. And that's just not the story of our history in this country.
Cliff Albright, Black Voters Banner, we appreciate it. Quentin James, Collective PAC, we appreciate it. Damon, I'm going to read this last one for you for your final comment. Justice Kagan wrote this here, writing for the three justices who dissented. Under the court's new view of Section 2, a state can, without legal consequence, systematically dilute minority citizens' voting power. Of course, the majority does not announce today's holding that way. Its opinion is understated, even antiseptic. The majority claims only to be updating our Section 2 law as though through a few technical tweaks. But in fact, those updates eviscerate the law so that it will not remedy even the classic example of vote dilution given above. Without a basis in Section 2's text or the Constitution, the majority formulates new proof requirements for plaintiffs alleging vote dilution. Those demands, meant to disentangle race from politics, leverage two features of modern political life: that racial identity and party preference are often linked, and that politicians have free rein to adopt partisan gerrymanders. Here she's saying is, don't fall for the okie doke. This isn't, no, we just reformulating. This is, no, she's saying, no, you're trying to completely gut the law without saying you're gutting the law.
The only way we can make sense of these horrible decisions, not just today, but over time, is through the dissenters, like Justice Kagan, Justice Sotomayor, and of course, Justice Jackson. Elena Kagan ain't never lie about this, for sure. She is telling the exact truth. And it reminds me of that Harvard and UNC affirmative action case that we also litigated and argued in the Supreme Court. The court didn't say it was overruling precedent. It underruled precedent. right? It basically said, not that much to see here. We're just bringing things into contemporary context. Something really crazy for textualists and originalists, people who say you got to look to the way things were 200 years ago. But here's the deal. Our superpower is not just our stereotypical resilience. Our superpower is our ability to innovate. Our superpower is our ability to push through and persevere, and it's through all the means that all of the panelists said, but also by voting. But people, I need everybody to make a plan. We have a lot of people out there who don't know where they're supposed to vote because they've changed polling sites and polling hours and early voting and mail-in voting requirements so many times in the last few years alone. We have people who don't know if they're actually still registered because they've been purged. The best way not to be purged from the rolls is to be a chronic voter. But right now, we need everyone to check their status. Call 866-OUR-VOTE. That's the election protection hotline. It is our vote for a reason. It is for us, by us, but we serve everyone to make sure that people understand the rules of the road, they understand where they stand, and also you can vote in time for these primaries if it hasn't happened in your state already, and you can also vote in that general election. Make sure you are situated, that you are registered, and that you know how to vote your issues, how to vote in your interests.
Damon Hewitt, Laws Committee for Civil Rights under law. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Folks, the Congressional Black Caucus held a news conference today discussing this decision. This is what they had to say.
So let's tell the truth, plainly and without apology. American democracy has never been fully formed and has never been equally accessible. Every inch of progress in this country has been fought for, won through struggle, through resistance, and through the courage of people this nation tried to leave behind. We did not become a truly multiracial democracy until the Voting Rights Act of 1965 enforced the 15th Amendment, because Black Americans demanded the right to be seen, heard, and counted. That progress was paid for in blood, in sacrifice, and in unbreakable resolve. And now, 60 years later, we are watching that progress be ripped away. With its decision in Louisiana v. Calais, the Supreme Court has opened the door to a coordinated attack on Black voters across this country. This is an outright power grab. It's about silencing Black voices, dismantling majority Black districts, and rigging the map so that politicians can choose their voters instead of the other way around. We have seen this before. We know exactly what this leads to, and we will not go back. For years, we've sounded the alarm on the Voting Rights Act as the Voting Rights Act was chipped away piece by piece. Today, the consequences are here, and they are dangerous. Let me say this clearly. The legitimacy of this court is in crisis. This is not the court of Thurgood Marshall. This is not the court that delivered Brown v. Board of Education. This is not the court that expanded freedom and moved this nation closer to its ideals. This is a court that is turning back its back on that legacy and on the people it is supposed to serve. But we're not powerless, and we're not backing down. The Congressional Black Caucus is prepared to take any measure necessary to protect Black voters in this country. We are demanding an immediate vote on the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act, and we will not accept delay, obstruction, or excuses. We will, and we will go further. We will fight for Supreme Court reform. We will pursue term limits for justices, and we will do what it takes to restore integrity, accountability, and trust, because no institution is above the people it serves.
Today's decision by this illegitimate Supreme Court majority strikes a blow against the Voting Rights Act and is designed to undermine the ability of communities of color all across this country to elect their candidate of choice. But we're not here to step back. We're here to fight back.
Yes.
Now, when this decision came out earlier today, it's an unacceptable decision, but not an unexpected decision. Because this isn't even really the Roberts Court. It's the Trump Court.
Yes.
And what we would expect from the Trump Court is an effort to continue their scheme to suppress the vote and rig the midterm elections and beyond. Because these extremists have failed America in every possible way. They failed on the economy. They failed on health care. They're failing as it relates to this reckless and costly war of choice. The extremists have completely and totally failed America.
That's right.
So they've concluded, aided and abetted by the Trump court, that they have to cheat to win.
Yes.
But the reality of our experience, our journey, now more than 400 years, is that we view a setback, and this is one, but we view setbacks as nothing more than a setup for a comeback.
That's right.
And America has the great opportunity to keep the comeback going by exercising your right to vote in November and making it clear that it's not Donald Trump or his Supreme Court majority that should be the ones to decide who gets to represent you in Congress. It's the American people.
That's right.
Now, they've tried to do everything they can, particularly in the aftermath of the 2008 election. They've tried to do everything that they can to eliminate and erase our journey, our struggle, our march in this country toward a more perfect union. And now we're at a point where affirmative action is gone, diversity is gone, equity gone, inclusion gone, racial tolerance gone, the Voting Rights Act largely gone. But guess what, extremists? We're still here.
That's right.
And we're not going anywhere. And we believe in this country.
That's right.
Not a perfect country, but we recognize that what we've been given is a march toward a more perfect union. And at this moment in time, we're urging everyone to summon the courage, the character, and the conviction of those heroes like John Lewis and Rosa Parks and so many others upon whose shoulders we stand.
Yes.
They had to fight through moments of turbulence, trials and tribulations. But every single time, they fought through those moments and were able to usher in a new era of progress. And that's what this moment represents right now. It's turbulent. It's chaotic. It's extreme. But all of us are going to summon that courage, that character, that conviction, and show up and stand up and speak up for what we know is right, to get this situation turned around. We will not let their scheme to rig the midterm election and beyond be successful.
Folks, Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she said, y'all want to fight? This is how Dems must fight.
Them to just hide that intent instead of actually address and prevent and protect Americans' voting rights who are at risk, and especially communities, I think, in the South of the United States, but it really affects every American across.
Should New York respond in kind by doing its own redistricting once the amendment, if the amendment passes?
I have long felt that we all have to play by the same set of rules, and the Republican caucus has made it very clear that they want and are setting rules of partisan gerrymandering. The Democratic caucus has tried to pass nonpartisan gerrymandering for 10 years. Republicans have rejected it. And so we have to all abide by the same rules. And so if Republicans are going to redraw North Carolina, if they're going to redraw Texas, if they're going to redraw and gerrymander every one of their states, then unfortunately, we have to provide balance to that until we get to the day where we can all finally agree to put this behind us and pass nonpartisan gerrymandering federally.
This graphic has been floating all around social media. It says current map, Democrats hold 24 seats in these states. possible redistricting scenario, Republicans gain 12 more seats. You look at this map, you see right here on the left, you see the blue, you see 3 in North Carolina, you see 3 in North Carolina, 1 in South Carolina, you see 2 in Georgia, 2 in Alabama, 1 in Mississippi, you see 2 in Louisiana, you see the ones in Florida. This likely could be the map. None in Louisiana, none in Mississippi, none in Tennessee, none, which means majority black Memphis, no, they may get rid of that. None in Alabama, 1 in Georgia, none, removing Clyburn, none in South Carolina, basically only having 1 in North Carolina, and having 1, maybe 2 in Florida. What has been talked about, Joy, is that if Republicans want to go that hard, Democrats should do a 52-0 map in California. Democrats should do a 17-0 map in New York. In Illinois. And New York Governor Kathy Hochul's already said she's meeting and saying how should they respond. Listen, damn all this cute and being nice. If Republicans wipe out 10 to 15 black seats in the South, you damn Skippy, I want to see a 52-0 map in California.
Absolutely. I have not always wanted to see this. I'm like AOC. Many of us wanted to have non-partisan gerrymandering. We can't have that. So we got to match energy with energy. We have to do that. This is a war. And there are things that you do in war and rules that you have that you might not have in polite times. So yeah, if they do one thing, we have to do the other, because that will also give them pause. We have seen in other states where you have Republican legislators who say, you know what, I don't want to be a part of that. And there may be some Democrats. So we got to match energy for energy. If we're seeing it over there, we've got to respond in kind, because what's at risk is the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment. But women out there, ladies, pay attention. Pete Hegseth put up a pastor and is normalizing a man who wants to repeal the 19th Amendment. Guys, they have a plan that involves everyone who is not a white man. But what we really know is they are tricking these poor white men, because what they really have is a plan that only benefits an oligarchy of rich white men. Mm-hmm. That's where we're going here. So any and everything by any means necessary, we have to be of that mindset now, whereas we might not have been that way before. So if you are a white friend of Joy Cheney's who's on here, I need to see you posting about this. I need to see you talking about this. If you're a women's rights advocate, as I am, that's where you do a lot of your work, I need to see you moving on this. I need to see you writing about this. I need to see you talking to your families about this.
Yep.
Blowing up the table about this.
Yep.
Because that's where we are right now. And everyone has to vote. So that young lady that I had to give a terse and a curse to at the founding farmers
right.
A few weeks ago, I'm sorry, but it was deserved.
Michael,
what you're talking about is stupid.
Michael, Marsha Black.
We gotta say it.
Marsha Blackburn, who's running for governor of Tennessee, posted this. I urge our state legislature to reconvene to redistrict another Republican seat in Memphis. It's essential to cement Donald Trump's agenda in the golden age of America. I vow to keep Tennessee a red state, and as governor, I'll do everything I can to make this map a reality. So what she's saying, Michael, is she wants to see a Republican represent a majority black city in Memphis. Now, remember, there were 2 Democratic seats in Tennessee. Now there's only 1 because they split Nashville into 4 different congressional districts. Memphis is pretty much still intact, represented by Congressman Steve Cohen. He's, of course, being challenged by State Representative Justin Pearson. And then this is how people responded. They said, okay, Marsha, if you want to see all red Tennessee, this is what Illinois should look like. They said Illinois should look like an all blue state. They said, okay, Marsha, you want to see an all red Tennessee? They said we can play that game. Let's have an all blue California. Then they said, again, have an all blue Indiana. You start talking about how do you look at Colorado? Let's take that, that state leader, Senate leader in Maryland did not want to redistrict in that state. It was being pushed by Governor Wes Moore. Well, guess what? If Republicans start wiping out these seats, then that damn Senate president and those black senators in Maryland need to get some damn guts and wipe out the Republican seat in Maryland. This is real simple. This is warfare, political warfare. The Supreme Court is unleashed, and this is how you fight fire with fire.
Tired of bringing a knife to a gunfight. And, I don't know which mic.
I'm sorry. Imhotep, and I'm going to go to you next. Imhotep, go.
All right. All right. Yeah, I agree, Roland.
And control room, y'all got to get Michael Brown's echo straight, so please fix that. Imhotep, go.
Okay, yeah, I agree, Roland. We have to fight with those tactics and redraw those maps. That's part of it. But the other part is if there is equal voter apathy, like there was in 2024, well, then if Republicans have a higher turnout, then we're going to lose once again. So in addition to redrawing those maps, we have to focus on the policies that really impact the African-American community. We have to invest in organizations like Black Voters Matter. We have to have the ground game to really do the door knocking and engage people on the ground to get them to actually vote. Okay, so we have to have all of that together. And really, and lastly, when I talked about 1890 Mississippi, that's one of the reasons why the 1965 Voting Rights Act was needed and signed into law to counter what happened then and counter all those obstacles to the 15th Amendment of 1870. So this is what these conservatives, what these Republicans have been planning for decades. Okay, and I have to give it to them. They're persistent. They're like the Energizer Bunnies of white supremacy. They just keep going and going and going. They don't give up.
Michael, go ahead.
Well, I think we're still having some technical problems, but I'll try it, Roland. The issue on folks being ready and being mobilized relative to these courts, it's time to do what we need to do as well. And whether those numbers, and I know some Democrats, well, we don't want to do that. We don't want to go that far. Well, we have to. It's time. This is 1963, 64, 65. It's time. Rosa Parks, she thinks she wanted to sit in the back of the bus anymore. She said it's time. And I think we're at that point now where it's time. Traditionally states and make them all. And then if they want to do the same thing, maybe this has to just be that way for a while until we get back to saying, hey, let's figure it out the right way and have nonpartisan gerrymandering.
All right.
There's blue states.
Well, we're having some issues with Michael's connections. Let's get that straight. So let's do this here, folks. I was going to go to a break, but I'm not going to do that. South Carolina state students have been protesting the decision to invite the Lieutenant Governor of South Carolina to be the commencement speaker. Protests have been taking place. They got a petition. More than 3,000 people have signed the petition. If you want to understand how wild, deranged, and crazy this MAGA Lieutenant Governor is, Pamela Yvette, she literally posted this video a few hours ago on social media in response to the protest.
Well, I was at the White House today. I heard about what's happening on the campus of SC State University. Let's be clear, facts trump feelings in the real world. President Trump and conservatives have done more for HBCUs than any administration in history. I must be doing something right because woke mobs are coming after me for being a champion of eliminating radical DEI scams on college campuses. So bring it on. Just like President Trump, I'll never back down or bend a knee to the woke radicals. I'm ending DEI on campuses once and for all. Stay tuned. I'm going to have a lot more to say about this later. In the meantime, I look forward to celebrating commencement with the students and faculty at SC State.
First of all, she lied about Trump and HBCUs. But guess what? She's not going to be speaking. This just in, South Carolina State President Alexander Conyers tells students that he has withdrawn her invite to be the commencement speaker. Listen.
Yesterday, what I saw today, college students exercising their free rights, one that I swore to protect, one that I served 28 years in the Army willing to give my life for. So how someone can confuse what happened, and perhaps because that person wasn't here, and that person got second or third-hand information. But I certainly sat in a 2-hour cabinet meeting yesterday without even knowing students were downstairs. So again, what you have done for the past 2 days, I must admit, you've done exactly what I did some 35 years ago here as a student on this same grounds. Now, with that being said, we can't pull back what's out on social media. We can't pull back what people think. But I certainly don't want people to think that the students here at South Carolina State University, future educators, doctors, lawyers, attorneys, scientists, business owners, are thugs, or think that they're mob. And I welcome anyone on this campus, in this state, in this nation, to come onto this campus and have a constructive dialogue, exchange ideas and viewpoints with our students, with you. Because I know, I've watched many of you for 4 years now, and I know that you can hold your own against the best of them. And with that being said, I know the temperature in the country now, and because of what's out there now, I don't want anyone showing up on this campus thinking that something is different and not knowing what those thoughts may lead to. And I certainly would never intentionally place our students, our faculty, our staff, our visitors in harm's way. And with that being said, because of that, because of the unknown, because of we don't know how everyone thinks, I've made the decision to rescind the invitation to the Lieutenant Governor to speak at your commencement. Now, with that being said, I've invited everyone onto this campus at any time to engage and have a dialogue with us, with you, with different viewpoints, because that is important. But graduation is not the time for that. So we will not have that graduation at that graduation. Again, you've heard my statement. For my student leaders, where are my student leaders? But the ones that our SGA president, vice president, CAB president, the entire E-board, your royal court, I want you to know that they've advocated for you. They've expressed your concerns to me, and I've listened to those concerns, and I've made a decision, and we will continue to go forth and do great things. So again, my student leaders, if you would like to have a one-on-one with me, we will continue to do that like we always do. But at this point, I will not take questions. So thank you all very much. Go Bulldogs.
All right, so I'm not sure why. We just played the video straight from Twitter, so not sure why it was sped up. South Carolina State University representative, alum, and former board member Hamilton Grant joins us right now. So your response to that decision by the president, it seems that video by the lieutenant governor calling students a woke mob backfired on her.
Absolutely, Roland. Thank you for having me. I think this shows the power of unity. This was a student-led protest. So I must give a shout out to a few people. Zaria Tucker, who's the SGA president, Olivia Ratliff, Miss SCSU, the entire court of South Carolina State and student leaders. They rallied to the call to make sure that their voices were heard. They were not standing for someone who is ultra MAGA, who has not shown any support to South Carolina State University, who is one of the candidates who is leading the effort, as you all just showed, to drawing out Congressman Jim Clyburn, who is an alum of South Carolina State University, out of Congress. And so the students said, we are not standing for that. And what an awesome message that it shows, that the students and the young people of South Carolina State University, their voice matters. So all the shout out to them.
See, the thing here, when you have someone who is a lieutenant governor of the state, and this is a state school, and what she did was attack these students, calling them, again, using all of the MAGA buzzwords, woke mob, anti-DEI, and also lying. Donald Trump's new budget calls for massive cuts to HBCU funding. It's a lie that Donald Trump has done more for HBCUs than any other president. It's a lie. It's just a flat-out lie. And then for her to basically say, oh, yeah, I'm coming, I'm going to have a lot more to say when I come, you don't want that BS at your graduation. And look, listen, I was a 2014 commencement speaker at South Carolina State. Right. They gave me an honorary degree, had a great time with them. And so this is your graduation. You want to be able, I take pride in giving commencement speeches that students come up to me 10, 20 years later saying, man, I still remember what you had to say. Thank you so much. You don't want somebody who's a partisan hack who insults the first students practicing their First Amendment rights as your commencement speaker.
That's right, Roland. Let's not forget what this is. This is a weapon of mass distraction. Here you have the current lieutenant governor of the state of South Carolina who is running for governor, but also running third and fourth in the polls. Here's, for context, for our viewers out there watching, South Carolina will pick the first governor or a new governor for the first time in 10 years. Then Lieutenant Governor Henry McMaster, when Governor Nikki Haley went to serve in the Trump administration, the Lieutenant Governor McMaster finished her term and then won 2 consecutive terms. So he's in his 10th year of being governor in the state of South Carolina. So anything that walks, talks, or sounds the most like Donald Trump in conservative South Carolina is probably going to get the nominee to go into November's election. And so right now you have a lieutenant governor who people thought would be a front runner, running 3rd and 4th in the polls, doing everything that she can in a Hail Mary attempt to sound like Donald Trump. And again, it backfired. And so I think that when we look at what the students were able to accomplish, and when we look at these MAGA buzzwords, here's what I want to tell to our people. We've got to stop inviting MAGA to the cookout. They've showed us who they are. They showed us what they are about. And so opening our sacred space and platform to them. On HBCU campuses, homecoming and graduation is sacred. Why allow somebody who brings that level of discord and then doubles down on their hatred to the students that they're supposed to be uplifting for commencement? That has no place at South Carolina State University, and I hope all HBCUs take the same stance and not inviting MAGA to the cookout because they don't want to be part of it.
Let me be very clear, and I think a lot of people also need to understand something, because there were some people who were angry when Senator Britt of Alabama was invited to be the commencement speaker at Tuskegee. You had a Republican in Georgia who was invited, who gave the commencement speech on Saturday at Morehouse School of Medicine. He actually, though, was a graduate of the Morehouse School of Medicine and was the student body president at the Morehouse School of Medicine. And let's be clear, okay? I need people to understand. If you're a public HBCU in Florida, in Mississippi, in Alabama, in Louisiana, in Texas, in South Carolina, in, in Tennessee, you have Republican governors, Republican legislatures. The people that control the purse strings, they are Republicans. And these schools have to, look, they're trying to get research dollars, they're trying to get government funding, and we get that. But there's a difference between, in the case of Senator Britt, listen, she secured millions of dollars for Tuskegee in research. And guess what? That's what she's supposed to do, because she's one of 2 United States senators, and they are a school in that state, even though they're not a public institution. But there's a difference between Republicans in leadership who are supportive of HBCUs and then somebody who is bringing that type of rhetoric to the table. So what they're basically saying is, I'm looking to gin up a fight. As opposed to, as the president said, when he said that she was invited because of her record as a business, go to my iPad, she was invited because of her record as a business leader and entrepreneur, as a founder and former CEO of a company that grew from a startup into a billion-dollar enterprise. He said that's why she was invited. But she decided to turn this thing really, really, really political.
Absolutely. And let's be very clear. She did not invite herself. So while I'm glad it is that the president and the administration made the right decision to rescind the offer, in my opinion, the offer should have never been given in the first place. Lieutenant Governor Evitt has always showed who she is. I'm the co-chair of the HBCU caucus here in South Carolina, along with Senator Deion Tanner, who's another South Carolina State alum. And when we launched this initiative, we had support of our Republican president of the Senate, the Republican Speaker of the House, the Republican governor of this state. Not one time did we ever receive any support or statement from the lieutenant governor. Not one time has this lieutenant governor served in the General Assembly and been responsible for allocating funds to South Carolina State University or increasing the HEAP funds that would allow private HBCUs in the state to get some more funding as well. So this whole notion of being able to invite this person or invite individuals because somehow it's good for HBCU business because they can slide us in on the budget on the front end when they show no track record of supporting HBCUs in the first part. I think we've got to have a better conversation about what this is. This is not a business decision. We are not pimping out our HBCUs for the potential of elected officials coming so they can get good photo ops and do nothing when it comes to the budget. The Biden administration sent Governor McMaster a letter a couple years ago, along with other HBCUs across the country that are land grant institutions. South Carolina State was showed that it was owed $500 million of underfunding. And so we have not made enough progress, in my opinion, to increase that funding. So we still have work to do. But potentially inviting a gubernatorial candidate that you think may be a front runner or that you think may become governor leaves so much up to happenstance. And if that person doesn't win, then we're stuck at square one. So I think we've got to be very, very specific on who we allow in our spaces, what kind of conversations that we're having across the aisle, and how do we make HBCUs important to all races in all parties. And so I think that's the main message and takeaway that we need to be looking at from this from a policy standpoint here in South Carolina.
Hamilton Grant, we really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, go to my panel here. I mean, the question really is, and I remember, Michael, when Betsy, what was her name, DeVos, when she got invited to be the speaker at Bethune-Cookman, and there were protests. But there have been other, when Texas Senator John Cornyn was invited to speak at TSU, students protested. I think that was also pulled as well. And the bottom line is, what these students are saying is, I don't want to hear somebody who, frankly, wants to take me out.
I totally agree, Roland. And, you know, I've said before, when you have commencements like this for colleges, universities, especially HBCUs, the graduation is for the students graduating. It's not for the faculty. It's not for staff, anything like that. So I think that the students should be involved in choosing their commencement speaker, because it's something they're going to reflect back on for probably the majority of their lives. And to pick somebody like this, I was sitting here listening to this MAGA idiot, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evitt, who sat up there and lied about HBCU funding. And HBCUs received $17 billion from the Biden-Harris administration over the 4 years of Biden-Harris. So you not only are you lying, but you can't count either. And to call this is the HBCU for people that may not be familiar. This is the HBCU that also originally gets funding from the land grant colleges from the Morrill Act, going back to 1862 and 1890, okay? And for her to sit up here and spew this venom and echo these right-wing MAGA talking points, I mean, it's just an insult on top of an insult. So I'm proud of these students for standing up and protesting like they did, and also protest at the ballot box and vote these MAGA idiots out of office.
Joy.
You know, I'm big on accountability. I'm really glad that this student honed in on the fact the lieutenant governor did not invite herself. This was a huge error. If the administration doesn't know how to handle these things, they need to ask someone. This is not the first time you've had a Black institution within a state where there is Republican leadership. Invite them for a tour. Let them give a speech somewhere in some side, place, but to invite them to homecoming is such an insult. It shows that you're not connected with the students on your campus. You're not listening to them. You don't understand what they're looking for, what their families are looking for. It tells me you're out of touch. And then to have someone who you've invited then insult you by being disrespectful to the community base, which says she doesn't respect any of you and was planning to come there and disrespect you and figuring that you would have nothing to say about it or do about it. This was a gross mistake on the administration's part, and that has to have some accountability for it. There needs to be some understanding of what was the decision tree. And let me just say this to everyone. I'm an AKA. I won't bring up what happened. Friends, if you are in a position of leadership, everyone does not deserve the right to your platform. You don't have to give everyone the right to your platform. It's always about what's your brand, what matters to your constituents. And in this case, it's students if you're on a college campus, no matter what college campus. And it's one thing if the student body is of mixed mind about it, then that's a different story. But even there, you want to bring someone who brings people together, not tears them apart. Especially at commencement, this was a gross error in judgment, and the board and they need to understand the decision tree that allowed them to pick someone who was on the record as disrespectful to the college campus, both the students that go there, but also just in tone and tenor. This is really important, and it's a reminder to all of us who even operate in bipartisan spaces, as I do.
Yep.
Not everyone has a right. There are many Republicans out there. You don't have to pick the most incendiary ones.
All right, got to go to a break. We come back. Drama in North Carolina. St. Augustine's filed for bankruptcy. We'll discuss that next right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.
With medicine and science under attack, I want to keep you and your family informed and healthy. I'm Dr. Ebony Hilton, and I knew at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a doctor. So I studied hard and became the first African-American female anesthesiologist hired at the Medical University of South Carolina since its opening in 1824. And I always say I was made into a doctor, but I was born to be a mom. And as a new mom, wife, sister, daughter, and friend, I understand how frightening a medical crisis can be. I care for individuals on some of the worst days of their lives, and it's my mission to provide you with a safe space to gain clarity on issues affecting your mind, body, and soul. I recognize that there are health disparities, particularly as it pertains to race, and I want to help bridge the gap between you and your healthcare providers. Join me every Thursday for Second Opinion on the Black Star Network, where each week I'll invite experts from various medical fields to share the latest health news. We'll discuss topics such as the vaccine debate, mental and sexual health, medical bias, infertility, menopause, andropause, nutrition, and aging. Together with my medical colleagues, we aim to provide you with a second opinion. Don't miss it, Thursdays only on the Black Star Network.
My name is Bill Duke, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Folks, we've been covering for a long time the drama with North Carolina St. Augustine's University. They now filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection to restructure its debt. The university, one of the oldest HBCUs in the country, has been fighting to remain open amid multiple lawsuits and being millions of dollars in debt. According to court documents, the university estimates its assets between $100 and $500 million, with debts ranging from $50 to $100 million. The largest creditor is the IRS, with more than $14 million owed, along with millions more to state and federal agencies. This, of course, we've seen lots of drama here. You're talking about they've had multiple presidents, change in board leadership. We've been trying to get their new board chair to come on the show to talk about the vision, but they've been declining. I'm literally emailing them right now saying, hey, when can we get them on? So I would hope that Sophie Gibson and Angela Williams who was the Associate Vice President of Global Marketing and Communications, would actually come and talk. Now, why is this important? Bottom line is this here, okay? You can't be an HBCU and asking black folks to step up and help you out of a situation, but then you don't want to come talk to black folks. Folks need to know what's going on. They need to be aware of what's happening with this institution. There are students, there are alumni who actually care about St. Augustine's. And they want to be able to help. But when you've had an administration, as we said, we've invited multiple presidents, multiple board members, the last two board chairs to come on the show to discuss it. They have not. Now, you might remember we went down to North Carolina. We had a live broadcast talking to alumni about what was going on there, getting an understanding of all the various issues, talking about them because we care about our institutions. Well, one of the folks who was there was Stephen Williams, the former National Alumni Trustee-elect of the board. Now, mind you, he was elected to the board, but they wouldn't let him take his position. He joins us right now. Stephen, glad to have you here. I mean, that still was crazy. You were elected to the board, and the board refused to allow you to actually serve.
Yeah, absolutely right. And before we go into it, Roland, thank you for everything that you've done and to help us with getting this message out to the atrocity, because what we call it is the theft of a 159-year-old university. So yes, I was elected to the board by the alumni, the national alumni, and the board blocked me from being seated. And I had to rerun for my seat, and hopefully I'll retain that. I won't find out until May 8th. The elections were already, done and ended. So hopefully I've retained my seat, and we'll see what happens. But this news is heartbreaking. This is something that no alumni wanted to ever see. And it's almost like not knowing what's going on in your own household, and you're walking in into everything has changed. And this is basically what happened with our university, because this board of trustees has never had a conversation with alumni. And it's just been, trying to pull teeth to even get a dialogue or an email or response. I mean, even today we were planning on, dates to go there and clean up the campus like we normally do. My group that I helped co-found, Falcons Unite, we were, in the lead of that. And they sent out an email reply saying we can't come on campus. And again, we're just coming on to clean up. So, and it's funny that they say we can't come on campus, but 75% of the board that's sitting now has never touched down on the campus. So that's really a really funny statement that they sent out tonight. So.
Well, and I mean, here's the thing. I'm not a graduate of the university. I'm not from there. I'm somebody who's on the outside looking at this. And I'll be honest, this gives me the impression that there are a group of people who are trying to sabotage this university and, frankly, sell off it in parts. Because that's what it feels like. That's what like. Why would you continue to accrue debts? Why would you continue to begin to, how are you not negotiating with people? How are you still entering bad deals? I mean, it is just insane to me to watch what has been going on for the last several years with this institution.
Let me tell you this. So the worst thing about it, I mean, all of that, what you're saying is right. You're right on point. But they've taken 3 drawdowns. And as you know, they took 3 drawdowns from a company, basically Gothic Ventures, that, yielded them, a loan for $30 million. And they took 3 drawdowns of that, which was at 24% interest with a 1.5% prepayment penalty on top of that. So none of those funds were used to do anything, any structural thing to the university. They didn't pay employees, all of those people that are listed. If you even look at the bankruptcy filing and those individuals that are owed, those are a lot of students. They were supposed to give refund checks back to the students. So a lot of those students' names that are on there, they never received it. But it's funny because the previous administration said all the students were, remitted refunds. So that basically now contradicts what that administration said. So now you're sitting back and you're looking at all this stuff, and we have buildings that have been broken into. This board couldn't even raise enough money to get 2x4s and wood buildings to cover up the glass that had been broken up, just, to cut off the entryways for vagrants so they couldn't get in. I mean, we have archives that have been broken into and salvaged. And I'm going on record to say the Delaney sisters' furs have been stolen from the campus. So when you see those and you know that that's gone, They never even tried to secure that area. That is still open. Faculty Unite, we just raised enough money now to actually get some cameras put in those areas to secure the church, because the church was broken into as well. And we have cameras up there, which we're going to put in security so they can see. And then we have cameras that we're going to put on the backside of the school, right where they were entering, where really security can't see from their vantage point where they are on the campus. So there's those things that we're doing. This administration, this board of trustees couldn't even do that, and they haven't done anything. But still and yet, they sit in their seats and they sit there and watch all these things happen, and they don't care. They don't talk to alumni. They don't do any of these things. And the question we asked them, what did you do with those funds that you took from Gothic Ventures? Because you didn't put them back to where they belong. Now the university is left with that debt. So why are you here? And why are you sitting in that seat when actuality, that's for somebody who really loves the institution, who really shows that, look, this is what it means to love this HBCU. We're going to fight for it to get our accreditation back. And, you know, it may take us 10 years to even accomplish that. But the more they sit in those seats, the longer it's going to take us to, one, get our campus back, two, start working with our community partners to bring in certificate programs so we can do certain things. Because right now, we're just looking, it's very embarrassing because we're better than that. Our university's better than that. They've graduated a lot of individuals that were successful in their lives. I mean, there are people right now, our Dr. Robinson, Prezell Robinson, is still alive, and to see, and I hope to see all this happening. I know that's disheartening for him, and because it's disheartening as an alum for me. So really and truly, I don't know what to really say about this board, but you're head on, because if somebody really loved the university, they would do the right thing and remove themselves. Because right now what they're doing is just showing that as individuals of color, we don't know how to operate a business.
Well, we're going to continue to cover this, keep trying to get them on to explain what's going on. And again, if you need help, reach out. But trying to be quiet makes no sense whatsoever. And again, so Board Chair Sophie Gibson, we've been trying to get her on the show since she took the position in August, and they keep saying she's unavailable. Well, we're here 5 days a week, Sophie. So if you want to come on the show, come on, y'all. Come on. Sophie, you want to come on the show? Let us know. All right, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
All right, thank you, Roland.
All right, folks, quick, you know what, let's just go right to our Black Star Network headlines with Brittany Noble.
A black man is planning to sue the New York Police Department after two officers violently beat him during a raid on April 14th. The incident took place at a liquor store in Brooklyn where Timothy Brown was arrested by two detectives, Volkan Madden and Michael Allegro. The detectives mistakenly identified him as a drug suspect. Brown says that his life has been permanently altered due to the violent beating that he endured. His attorney claims that Brown suffered permanent injuries to his leg and now requires the use of a cane. Brown is now seeking $100 million in damages, alleging excessive force, civil rights violations, and misconduct. Now, prior to the incident involving Brown, Detective Madden had received 12 complaints dating back to 2016, while the other detective had 8 complaints dating back to 2013. New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani has launched the city's first Office of Deed Theft Prevention to combat property fraud and protect homeowners from illegal displacement. This office will detect fraudulent activities, provide legal assistance, and coordinate with law enforcement. For the current fiscal year, the office will operate on a $500,000 budget, which is set to increase to $1 million next year. The office was established on April 24th, just days after the viral arrest of the city council member Chi Os, who was protesting the eviction of a longtime resident of Bed-Stuy in a case identified as deed theft. Now, Ms. Domney says that the office will collaborate with residents, all to prevent similar predatory practices from affecting others. Additionally, members of the City Council's Progressive Caucus are urging Governor Kathy Hochul to implement a temporary eviction moratorium in cases where deed theft is suspected. Well, students and alumni are currently fighting to prevent the sale of Martin University, which is Indiana's only predominantly Black college. The group is asking a court to block the sale of the campus, arguing that the shutdown has disrupted their education, employment, and future opportunities. Some students claim that they completed their coursework but never received their degrees, while others report difficulties in transferring or continuing their education. One plaintiff stated that he was forced to withdraw from a PhD program at Walden University because his financial aid account at Martin remained active. Now, the lawsuit also alleges that the university failed to provide a clear teach-out plan, leaving students without a viable path forward. Hundreds of people gathered on Chicago's far south side to say farewell to Skyway Lanes, at the city's last Black-owned bowling alley, which officially closed its doors on April 26th. Despite a viral fundraiser that kept the alley going for another year, rising costs, declining league participation, and necessary repairs ultimately forced this second-generation family business to close. For decades, Skyway Lanes was not just a bowling alley. It was a hub for celebrations, community events, and connections among residents. And on its final day, longtime customers took home signed bowling pins and cherished memories, marking the end of an era. The owners say that the building will soon be sold. For the second consecutive year, Howard University in Washington, D.C. has been recognized as Forbes' top historically Black university in the country. The university ranked #1 on its 2026 America's Top Colleges list. Forbes evaluates colleges based on several factors, including return on investment, student debt, graduation performance, alumni salaries, and postgraduate success. Howard's consistent rankings at the top highlights the university's strong academic reputation, its alumni influence, and its status as one of the most prominent HBCUs in the nation.
Folks, don't forget to check out the Breakdown with Brittany Noble every single day right here on the Black Star Network, noon Eastern. Again, the Breakdown with Brittany Noble every single day at noon Eastern. All right, folks, we told you earlier about the drama in Florida. Well, the State House approved a new map for U.S. House districts that Governor Ron DeSantis proposed, which seems to give Republicans a pickup of 4 seats currently held by Democrats. The Republicans currently hold 20 of Florida's 28 seats, while Democrats hold 7. DeSantis shared the map with Fox News before any lawmaker got a chance to view it. And again, it was passed in the House and the Senate. Democratic State Representative Angie Dixon, she was not at all pleased with what happened in the House, and she let it be known.
Destroy our democracy. This is a violation of the Constitution. It is. It's a violation of the Constitution. I'm out of order, but y'all are doing illegal.
Representative Persons Mullica has waived closed. The question now recurs on final passage of HB 1D. The clerk will unlock the machine and the members will proceed to vote. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? The clerk will lock the machine and announce the vote.
83 yeas, 28 nays, Mr. Speaker.
Show the bill passes. Read the next bill.
None on the desk, Mr. Speaker.
Now that was the vote that took place in the House. It passed 21-17 in the Florida Senate. And someone actually posted a video earlier, and I saw it on social media, and they said that, it was shameful in Florida when it passed in the in the Senate, and nobody applauded. They said normally when they pass bills, they absolutely applaud, like you heard there in the House, but clearly they knew what was going down right there in the Senate. And the issue that you still see here is that the actions, and they've already been sued, the actions here, Michael, they could very well still be in violation of the Florida Constitution. And that's what we're seeing right here.
Yeah, Roland, I was reading a piece from the New York Times about this, and that's a possibility. They're in violation of the Florida state constitution. Lawsuits are going to be filed. But the fight continues. So we have to understand these people don't care anything about the rules, though. So that's the only thing. So we have to be vigilant. We have to really engage with the ground game. And in Florida, so we've had this conversation before about building the infrastructure in Florida, investing in Florida. This is what has to take place. But also, African Americans, especially in Florida, have to understand the threat that is there. Okay. And, you have Ron DeSantis, who is doing the bidding of Donald Trump, who endorsed this and pushed for this. And, these people, this is an all-out fight for power. These people don't care anything about rules. Okay. So we have to continue with this, but also understand, in the history keeps coming back into this, right? Because when you study Florida's, when they rewrote their state constitution in 1868, they imposed a felony disenfranchisement law, where if you were convicted of a felony, you lost your right to vote for life. They specifically did that to target African Americans, who were 48% of the state population. Okay, well, that Florida disenfranchisement law stayed in place until 2018, when people like Desmond Meade, who you interviewed here on the show, Roland, got it put on the ballot to get it overturned. So this is how wicked these people are. So bravo to that sister, but these people are, this is a blood sport, and these people are playing for keeps.
And again, what you have there, Joy, a state where Democrats have been flailing in the last several election cycles. And we had Nikki Fried on the other day, who chairs the Florida Democratic Party, the state party. They've been doing very well this year. Bottom line is, the only way, I keep saying, listen, only way to beat them, you've got to beat them at the ballot box. You got to overwhelm the ballot boxes.
You have to overwhelm, and let me just say, I'm from Central Florida. You have to overwhelm the ballot box. If you are an organization on the ground, if you are a church on the ground, you have to be encouraging your people to vote. You have to be educating them on this topic. You have to be getting people in. If you are a candidate, I don't care of any race, if you are not going out there and you are not talking about it in every place you find voters who are, in this case, Democratic voters, you have got to get them motivated to vote. If you are a nice white person, my neighbors, etc., we need you out there putting your actions where your mouth and you say your supposed values are. This is not enough time to be a good neighbor. A good neighbor in this case means going out there and voting and getting these people out of office. They are anti-democratic. We can go back to playing Democrat and Republican later. Right now, it's, do you believe in democracy where everyone has a seat at the table, or you don't? There are no two sides on this war. Do you believe in democracy, or you don't believe in democracy? That's it. That's it. That's where we are right now. And these people are racist. We have to use the right word. I never use that word. I literally don't. But now we are faced with it, and it's very apparent. They are sexist. They are homophobic. They are bigots. We cannot continue to allow them to run roughshod over and take over the entire electorate, not with a free market of ideas, but by tricks, by trying to eliminate the competition, all of that. Unfair practices, changing the rules, even in violation of the Constitution. They understand that they can get a lot done in the interim while we try to undo it. They understand what they are trying to do. So you have to be smarter than they are. You have to be more prepared than they are. And if you are someone who's funding at the national level and you're funding these states, please look at small organizations who who are on the ground in Florida and elsewhere. They need your resources to do what I just said. We are in a war. It's not one we're going to be violent.
Yep.
It's one where our violence is in our activities and in our willingness to disenfranchise.
Yeah, and bottom line is, again, we're going to keep saying this. If you organize and mobilize, they can be beaten, but that has to happen. And unfortunately, many folks are going to have to learn the really hard lesson in now being the receiving end of lots and lots of pain as it relates to this. Folks, final story. On Friday, the Prayers for the Nation and World Gathering will take place. Nate Miles, who's the founder and host of Prayers for the Nation, joins us right now. Nate, tell us about this, what's going to be happening on Friday.
Good afternoon, Roland, and good evening to people around the country. We're going into a program called Prayers for the Nation .live. And what this is an opportunity for people, interfaith program for people of all races and faiths to come together and say prayers, uplifting stories, talking to one another, have a dialogue about kind of what's going on right now and really uplift some hope in the country right now, because we're kind of at one of those points in the country where, and in the world for that matter, where people feel as though things are a little bit depressing, and when it starts to get depressing and divisive, anxiety runs high. We believe that we can always turn to God. Of whatever faith you are, you can turn to God and you can say a prayer. You can come across and you can say a prayer. You can tell your neighbor, you can tell your friends, you can tell family members uplifting stories about something that has happened and be able to really make a difference in their lives and turn around what they were doing and what they were saying. And that's what we're going to be doing.
How long is this broadcast on Friday?
It's going to be 3 hours long. It's going to be 5 o'clock till 8 o'clock p.m. Pacific time and 8 o'clock to 11 o'clock Eastern time. It's going to be great. You're going to hear from some great leaders across the country. Derek Johnson from the NAACP, Joe Takei from the Win with Women, Sister Dr. Gina Stewart, some of the people on there, and we may even get a word from yours truly, Roland Martin, to bring a word. It's one of those great opportunities for us really to hear from some of our leaders, to join us in prayer, to join us to talk together about some of these things that's going on, all kind of civic leaders, religious leaders, who will be getting together and talking about this. And so it's a great opportunity. And it's not one of the things about this, Roland, it's not a one and done. We're going to be doing this because we know that this is not the last time. There's going to be something going on, whether it's a war overseas, whether it's something here in this country, that prayer is going to be needed for. And so that's really what this is all about. How do we come together? How do we pray for some young people? We want people to know that we're not gathering for a show. We're gathering for impact. We're gathering so that people can come, listen, getting excited. Once again, you were just talking about what's it going to take to get people motivated and get their faith back and get them to doing something. Because as I've been talking to leaders around the country today, faith, as we always hear at church, faith without action is dead. So we want people to be faithful. We want them to get out there and get in the streets and start taking boots to the ground and making some things happen. You only make that happen when you're willing to get out there and work to make some things happen. So that's what we plan to do for 3 hours on Friday. Please, if you want to participate, get on nation.live, prayers, plural, for the nation.live. We want you there. Please tune in.
All right. Nate, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
We appreciate you too, Roland. Thank you so much. And thank you for all you do each and every day. You give Black America and this country a chance to be heard, and you encourage us each and every day. Keep it up, brother. We appreciate you.
I will do. I certainly appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. Let me thank Joy. Let me thank Michael Imhotep, as well as Michael Brown, for being on today's show. All right, folks, that is it for us. Tomorrow, we are going to be broadcasting live Shreveport, Louisiana, where Dr. Kevin Washington is leading a 2-day event that deals with the mental health of black men. We're going to be at Mount Canaan Baptist Church in Shreveport, live 5 to 7. And so please come on out. Of course, it was there in Shreveport where that brother killed 8 kids and shot 2 women Sunday before last. And of course, that city is still reeling from that. So we're going to be there on Thursday. Friday, we're traveling to Mound Bayou, Mississippi. That, of course, is the oldest black town in the United States. And that's where Donald Trump is sending white Afrikaners who came here to farm. And so what the hell's going on there? We're going to be talking to city leaders, talking about a number of things there. So we're going to be on the road, Shreveport tomorrow, Mound Bayou, Mississippi on Friday. Please spread the word, and we look forward to that. Folks, that is it for us. Don't forget, support the work that we do, the ability of us to be able to travel to these places. We're not being paid to go to Shreveport, to go to Mound Bayou. We're about leaving the studio, getting out there, talking to people. But your support is critical. A lot of y'all, I went to the mailbox today, packed with there's a bunch of envelopes I got to open, y'all. So packed with money orders and checks. So please give me some time to actually make all the deposits. And I appreciate that. Y'all sent a bunch of packages too, so I got a lot of stuff I got to open, and I appreciate all of it. But do me a favor, folks. Please, your support is critical. And I'm not joking when I say that we really got to have 20,000 people contributing on average $50 each a year, which would raise $1 million. That is so important because we don't charge for this content. We don't charge for the other 5 shows. We could go to Patreon. We could go to some other way. We could create a subscription account. We don't want to do that because we want our content to be widely available for folks to be able to access it anywhere. That's why we stream on YouTube. We stream on Facebook. We post our content on social because we want as many people as possible to be able to access it. So your support is critical. And so Keenan sent me a text. We have, is it 37,000? What is it, Keenan? He sent me the number last night. Hold on, because I said it on the air. Give me 1 second. Since we launched this show, we have had, let's see here. Did he put it in Group Me or did he say it to me directly? I think he put it in our chat. So let me roll up. I want to give y'all the actual number. So since we launched this show, September 4th, 2018, we have had 47,901 donors. 47,901 donors. We're getting closer, of course, to 50,000. And listen, it'd be great if we got 3,000 tonight. 3,000. Listen, it's more than 3,000 who are watching right now. And if you have not donated, if 3,000 people tonight gave us on average $50, it'll raise $150,000. And so it allows for us to pay staff, to pay travel, to pay all the expenses that we have, and they're real. It's $195,000 a month. I know, I cut the checks. And so if you want to contribute to us via Cash App, use the Stripe QR code. You see it right here. That's also for credit cards. If you want to see a checks and money order, make it payable to Roland Martin Unfiltered, P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C., 2003 7-0196. PayPal's R Martin Unfiltered, Venmo's RM Unfiltered, Zelle, Roland at RolandSMartin.com, Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Download the Black Star Network app, Apple phone, Android phone, Apple TV, Android TV, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, Xbox One, Samsung Smart TV. If you want to get our Roland Martin Unfiltered swag, please go to shopblackstarnetwork.com. Man, we got our hats and T-shirts and hoodies. Our shirt, Don't Blame Me, voted for the black woman. Also, MAGA chose between woke or broke. They chose broke. Black-owned media matters. All of our stuff right there on the website, so go to get it. And also, all the products that you see right here, these are all black-owned products. All these companies are available on our shopblackstarnetwork.com marketplace. We created this as a way for black-owned companies to be able to interface with our fan base. And so when you support these companies, when you buy these products, you also are supporting this show as well. And so we'd appreciate it if you go to our marketplace and support these black-owned companies at shopblackstarnetwork.com. Don't forget, folks, download the Fanbase app. So follow me at Roland S. Martin. So we appreciate that. Check out Brittany Noble every day with the breakdown of Brittany Noble every day, noon Eastern, right here, the Black Star Network. Every Thursday, check out Second Opinion with Dr. Ebony Ebony Jade Hilton. We stream it every Thursday, so it'll be at 11 a.m. tomorrow, and then, of course, we'll restream it tomorrow night. Let me thank everybody who joined us last night for our great discussion about black men, black women, domestic violence with Iyanla Vanzant. If you missed it, go to our YouTube channel. You can check it out. A fantastic conversation, one that you really, really don't want to miss. And so it was a fantastic conversation. So we're working on more conversations. And again, tomorrow I am broadcasting live from Shreveport, Louisiana. That's right. We're going to be there in Shreveport. I'm going to be at Mount Canaan Baptist Church. If you're there, tell folks we're going to be there. We look forward to that. So I can't wait because we're joining with Dr. Kevin Washington, who's really focused on black men's mental health, this mental health forum. And so we look forward to being there. Folks, that's it. I'll see y'all tomorrow right here. Roland Martin Unfiltered on the Black Star Network.